In the last video, we introduced argumentative writing, and in this one we'll talk about the most core part of it, the part called the claim. The claim is your main argument, or the point that you're trying to make in your argumentative essay. In every argument, you must take a position. You have to pick a side. Point one for today's discussion is that your claim, at its most basic, is just the side that you pick to take in an argument. Let's say that I am tasked with writing this topic. Is it a good idea to ban cell phone use by students in U.S. high schools? Okay, so let's say that I don't personally think it's a good idea to completely ban cell phone use from high schoolers. So the start of my claim may be, cell phones should not be banned in U.S. high schools. In that claim, I clearly state my point, and I'm pretty firm about it, which I'll talk a little bit more on later, but for now, just note that I clearly stated my point, and that's my claim. For my second point in this video, your claim should be able to be argued or proven with evidence. So can you back up your claim, your position, with facts, details, statistics, and other data to prove that your side is correct? If so, you probably have a solid and supportable claim. Let's look at a few examples to kind of illustrate this. Example 1, cell phones should not be banned in U.S. high schools. Is a good opener for a claim. It's a good start, it's clear, it states your position. Looking at another example though. For this example, it says, cell phones are small genies imbued with powerful magical energy. That one's obviously not going to work for a variety of reasons, mainly that it's just wildly off topic and just completely untrue. I'm not going to be able to back that up with facts and evidence. For the next example, cell phones are cool. I love my phone. This is also not a good claim or a good opener for a variety of reasons. It's too general and it doesn't actually state a real position. You may think phones are great, but at the same time think that they should not be banned from schools. It's not clear enough. Yeah, you can back up the fact that phones are cool and you could give some evidence to, I guess, support the fact that they're cool, but we're not even really arguing or not if phones are cool. We're trying to decide whether they should be allowed in high schools by students or not. There's a couple other things you need to pay attention to with claims. They can't just be outright statements or facts. So if I put my claim as cell phones can call and text people, that's not really arguing a side. It's not really stating a position. It's just stating a random fact about cell phones. Let's roll back just a little bit to the original claim that I had. The claim I put for this argument on cell phones was that cell phones should not be banned in U.S. high schools. Notice how I didn't put something like, I think that cell phones should not be banned in U.S. high schools. And I didn't put, I believe that cell phones should not be banned in U.S. high schools. Instead, I just outright stated, cell phones should not be banned in U.S. high schools. The reason why I didn't put something like I believe or I think is that when you are stating a claim, you want to be very, very firm about it. You don't want your audience to think that you're not sure about your position. Stating something like, I think cell phones should not be banned, may imply to them that you're unsure about the side that you're taking. Another example of a claim that's messed up by this, if I say, cell phones should probably not be banned in U.S. high schools, then it messes up my claim because the probably makes it seem like I'm not completely sure on my position. This is kind of an old school way of looking at this, but it's one that you want to pay attention to. A lot of teachers and professors may honestly not care if you put something like that in, but I'm of the belief that you need to have a very firm position right up front so that there can't be any argument and so that whoever is reading your argumentative essay knows what side you're taking for sure. There can sometimes be some differences in the words that a teacher or professor uses for the word claim. So claim and the word argument generally refer to the same thing in argumentative writing. It's the position that you're taking in an essay. For example, in a discussion on your argumentative essay, you may be asked to state your claim, or you may be asked to state your counterclaim, which is something we'll talk about later. But you also may be asked to state your argument, or to state what your counter-argument is. Both of these are kind of interchangeable. Argument and claim work each different way, and counterclaim and counterargument both mean the same thing too. To further add to this, you may also be asked by a teacher or professor to state your thesis or the thesis of your paper. And thesis is another term that kind of gets wrapped into this. It's more of a general writing term that usually is what your paper is about. So if someone asks you what your thesis is, it's essentially the point that you're trying to make or the purpose of your paper. In an argumentative essay, since that's the type of writing that we're looking at today, your thesis is going to be the position that you take in your paper. It's essentially another way to say the claim or what your essay is focused on, the position you're taking, supporting, and trying to prove with evidence. Here's a couple questions from an assignment that we'll do on class kind of looking at this. So question, what is a thesis? Answer, it's the main claim or argument that an essay is centered around. Another question from class, what is the term for the main argument or point that an essay is trying to prove? Answer, it would be the thesis. Now we need to build on that by previewing something called the thesis statement. Point number 5 is that the thesis statement is referring specifically to the statement or the sentence you write in the opening paragraph where you state your position or where you make your claim. Your thesis should be explicitly stated somewhere in the first paragraph of your paper. So most people will write what we call the thesis statement as the last sentence of the first paragraph or the last sentence of the introductory paragraph. So if our claim is our position, our thesis statement is basically where we are stating our claim. It's where we're stating our position. Point number 6 is that your thesis statement should have a specific structure to it as well. Let's look at a quick example of what a thesis statement may look like. This thesis statement says high schools should not ban students from bringing devices to school. They are useful for students to have for parent communication, they can be used for personal safety, and they can be helpful for school projects. In this example, I state my claim. High schools should not ban students from bringing devices to school. And I give a preview of the evidence to come. They are useful for students to have for parent communication, they can be used for personal safety, and they can be helpful for school projects. And this brings us to our final point. This point is that the thesis statement also gives a preview of the debate to come and the structure of my argumentative essay as a whole. I open with my position or my claim, and the next 3 sections or the next paragraphs to come will each go into those different points, the 3 points that I stated to support my argument. Now, if this seems like a lot, it's totally okay. We'll talk a lot more about thesis statements as we go into our discussion on the introductory paragraph. For now, just remember that your claim is the position that you are taking in your argumentative essay. The thesis statement is the written words that express what you will prove. It's the sentence that illustrates your claim, and it gives a preview of why your side, why your position will be right. If this seems like a fair amount of stuff to wrap your head around today, that's okay. In the upcoming discussions we'll look a lot more deeply into examples of what your claim and your thesis statement look like. So that way you'll be able to open up your paper directly stating what side you're on and why your side is correct.